6 Invitational 2022 playoffs day number 4. We only have 2 days left of SI after today, and on the day we saw the 2 lower bracket quarterfinals matches. Team Liquid versus Mibr. Today was sort of the story of 2 underdogs. Mibr continuing their run as underdogs, and well, Sonic's run unfortunately coming to an end. We'll talk about that more in the next matchup. We're talking about Liquid versus Mibr here. 89% of voters thought Team Liquid, and this really does feed into the underdog thing. I think Mibr definitely at this point deserved more of the votes, a little bit more of a vote of confidence from the community. Liquid did look quite good, and I'd understand this vote if we hadn't seen Liquid lose to TSM in the way that they did, and definitely if for some reason Liquid hadn't lost. Of course, that's not possible because we're now in the lower bracket. But, right, if they'd maybe gone all 3 maps versus TSM and it was quite close, then I could maybe still see this 89% vote. But given how that loss looked and how good Mibr has been in the lower bracket, they haven't crushed all their opponents. SSG, they got very close to losing to, came down to just that last round, but you cannot ignore the scalps that Mibr has taken, with Liquid being another very impressive one. They've eliminated all 3 of the grand finalists from the last 2 SIs. So at SI 2020, the grand finalists were SSG and NIP, and they took out both of them before this. And then they took out Liquid, which is the other grand finalist. Of course, there's only 3 grand finalists rather than 4 because NIP was in 2 of them. So again, SSG, NIP, Liquid, all taken down by Mibr. And right, let's take a look at how the match went in particular. A 7-2 and an 8-6. So this is coming right off the back of Liquid suffering an 8-6, 8-6 loss to TSM. So even much more decisive than that was, and it's a little bit surprising to see Team Liquid knocked out so swiftly, just back-to-back 2-0 losses when it looked like they were almost untouchable. Team Liquid wins the first round, and then we see 3 by Mibr. Liquid gets another round, and then we see 4 more by Mibr. Just a quick, clean, concise 7-2. Not much to it. Mibr just sort of ran over them on bank. Mibr has been quite good on bank from what I recall. And then Oregon. We come on to Oregon with Team Liquid on a 15 win streak from what I heard. Just taking countless names on this map, countless T1 teams from the region, from outside the region, just everybody blown away on Oregon. But finally, their streak comes to an end. Mibr defeats them 8-6. Team Liquid does get the first 2 rounds, and then we see 2 by Mibr, 2 more by Liquid, putting them onto a 4-2 defensive half. Pretty standard. Each team is in a fairly comfortable position at this point. Mibr gets the next round, Liquid gets another round, so Liquid's now up 5-3. 2 more back by Mibr ties the match up, and then a round from each of them goes into overtime, and then Mibr just gets the final 2 rounds in overtime to close out the map and close out the series and eliminate the tournament favorites. So these guys really are just Kingslayers, it would seem, and I don't know, are they poised to win the tournament? They might just be, considering they did just beat the tournament favorites even more badly than TSM beat them. So we'll have to see. They are, of course, coming from the losers bracket, so whoever does come from the winner bracket, if these guys are the ones that they face, you know, they'll have some sort of advantage, whatever the map pick advantage is. And let's look at the player stats, and well, you kind of see what happened here. Ness got absolutely shut down. I mean, I don't even know when the last time this dude had stats this bad. I think he dropped 3 kills on each map, and what, like 3 and 6 or something on the first map, and then 3 and 13 on the second one. Just a brutal slaughter of one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player this game has ever seen. Palu still performed. I do think he's a little bit more consistent of a player than Nesk, but Nesk has been the king of this tournament thus far, with being just a little bit above Palu in most of the categories. I'm sure when we look at the stats later, Nesk will now not be above Palu after this, but yeah, they just figured out how to shut him down, or he just deactivated whatever it was. He was on top of this tournament pretty indisputably, and then he didn't do that well against TSM, so he got passed up, I think, by Grixer, and now he's fallen down from, I don't know, what was he, like 2nd place, and now he was like the 8th best player in the tournament or something like this. Yeah, we'll have to examine it, but yeah, Palu putting up numbers, and then these 3 not doing too well, and then Nesk just unfortunately doing very abysmally. And then over on Mibr, we see Raps, Reduct, and Philippox all popping off. And so again, I don't know if this is just Nesk falling off. He burned so bright for so long in this tournament and he couldn't keep it up, or if it really is just a result of Mibr's pressure. But all right, with all that being said, let's move on to the next match. Sonics versus Faze Clan. This one's not as skewed as the other one is, of course, with about 40% to about 60% versus like 10% to 90% for the other one. but still, I do think Faze were the pretty heavy favorites coming into this one. It was going to be an uphill climb for Sonics, and well, they couldn't manage to climb up that hill. Sonics get knocked out of the tournament, exceeding pretty much everybody's expectations by placing 5th/6th. So, right, Faze Clan continue on, and this does set up for a LATAM team kill in the, I guess that'd be the semifinals of the loser bracket, and this guarantees teams from 3 different regions in the top 3 of the tournament. So it'll be Empire, TSM, and either Faze or not Liquid, Faze or MIBR in the top 3. So Europe, NA, and LATAM will all be represented. Taking a look at how the maps went, 7-4 and 7-5. So another 2-0 here, but it's a little bit more balanced. Sonics didn't get blown away as hard as Liquid did on Bank, but we also don't see any overtime, so it averages out pretty well. Taking a look at Oregon here, Sonics take the very first round, and then Faze get 2, 1 for Sonics, 1 for Faze, another for Faze, up 4-2 on the attacking half of Oregon. Pretty solid by Faze. Another round for Faze, another round for Faze. They're already up on map point after just 8 rounds. They're up 6-2. Sonics get another round, get another round, stay alive, and then they no longer stay alive after round 11. Faze Clan wins that 7-4. And then on Villa, the very same map that we just saw Sonics get 7-0'd on by Empire. Well, they do a little bit better here, but not enough to win the map. Sonics take the first round once again. Faze Clan get the next 4. Faze Clan is just eating them alive. And then Sonics finally get another one to stabilize a little bit after their defensive half. Only getting 2 is not great, but you could maybe turn it around. Faze Clan gets the first round of the second half. And I guess, well, if they hadn't allowed this clutch to happen, then they would have gone to overtime and maybe the match would have gone differently. But Bullet does get a nice 1v2 clutch. And then we see 3 rounds in a row from the Sonics. Faze Clan stops it with another 1v2 clutch. And then, well, Sonics need one more round to go to overtime to potentially win the map to stay in the series, but they cannot do it. Faze Clan defeats them 7-5. And yeah, Faze Clan are looking pretty good. And now with their biggest obstacle out of the way being Team Liquid, the team that beat them in group and beat them in the upper bracket, maybe they're poised to win the tournament. You know, they look quite good, just like MIBR have, and just like Empire and TSM have in the upper bracket. So we'll take a look at the stats here. Grixer doing well again. I think this is a little bit below his tournament average, but still a very impressive rating. Kanzin and Rexin just a little bit below 1.0. They did okay, but maybe not what you expect from players that have performed as well as they have. And then Super and especially Yeti really struggling here. He was getting shut down quite hard in a lot of rounds. And then we see Bullet, Astro, Cyber, even Souls with pretty good ratings. And then Cameraman with the exact same rating as Yeti, noticeably. But still, you know, the rest of his team was popping off. So you could take a little bit of an L on the personal scale. Okay, so that does it for the matches. And I guess we'll just take a quick look at the bracket and maybe a quick look at player stats. And we'll just call this one good. Okay, here's the entire bracket. We've seen all of this. We've seen all of these matches. A whole lot has been played and not very much is left to be played. TSM, Empire, MIBR, and Faze Clan are the top 4 of the tournament. So coming up tomorrow, we will see TSM versus Empire. This will determine who goes into the grand final from the winner's side. Losers will go to the lower bracket final. And then we will see MIBR versus Faze Clan. Winner of that will go on to play the loser of TSM Empire. And then on Sunday, we will see the loser bracket final between, once again, the loser of this match and the winner of this match. And then the winner of that will go on to face whoever was awaiting them in the grand final. So yeah, I guess if we're talking about predictions that I made, I guess I went over 2. And yeah, like I mean, I thought Faze was gonna win, but you know, I still went out on a limb and went for Sonics. And Liquid versus MIBR, yeah, I thought maybe that MIBR was going to subvert my expectations as they had done many times, and they did. And I guess I didn't even mention that MIBR also beat Auction. I was mostly talking about the that they beat NIP and then they beat Space Station because those were the grand finalists that they eliminated. But again, that's not the entirety of their loser bracket run. They also have Auction in there, and then of course also now they have Liquid in here. And you know, the Auction was a complete beatdown, perhaps the biggest testament to their you know, pressure, as I'll continue to say. And well, they 2-0'd NIP fairly decisively as well, and 7-3, 8-6 is even a little bit better of a performance than Liquid put up. So 8-6 and a 7-2 here. So NIP took even one more round off of them, and maybe curiously, maybe not, Space Station was their toughest adversary, with it being 7-2, 7-2 back, and then a 8-7 on bank, just very narrowly remaining in this tournament. And yeah, the fabric of this tournament could be quite different if that one round had gone differently, or even just any one round on that map had gone differently. And so who do I think is going to win these? I think I already predicted on TSM versus Empire, and I said that this was maybe the hardest one to call thus far. And I suppose in hindsight, maybe some of the other ones actually were tougher to call, given that the unexpected team won. But just by looking at them before actually seeing the result, TSM versus Empire strikes me as being very difficult to call. TSM maybe being a bit sharper of a team in a way, and maybe another word is lopsided. Bolo and Merc have been going crazy on the frags. They've been performing really well. And on the other side of things, Geo and Chala have maybe not been lighting up the scoreboard, suffering a little bit in the stats department. Not the biggest deal, as they are the two denoted support players on the team, and that's just sort of how stats work in this game. Empire being a little bit more of a unit, it seems, and I guess that's sort of their shtick in a way. But I guess I'm just going to go with TSM. This one just feels like an absolute toss-up. It could go either way. Just looking at previous results, it's there's nothing really to go off of. Empire had to go 3 maps versus Sonics, and TSM had to go 3 maps versus Furia, but TSM has a 2-0 over Nip, a 2-0 over Liquid, which is perhaps the most impressive one, and Empire has a 2-0 over Space Station, and TSM, of course, having one more result in the bracket because Empire had that first round bye. So I guess I'll go with TSM. Again, I feel like it's a toss-up, and maybe I'll get this one wrong, and maybe I'm still NA hopeful or whatever, and TSM is the last NA team, so I have to put my faith in them. But I think they can take it, and this one feels like pretty close to 50-50 to me. Mibr versus Faze Clan, also really tough to call, maybe even tougher to call than TSM versus Empire. And if we saw this match much earlier, I mean, I'm sure I'd be predicting against Mibr just like I did here and here and here and here. And this one, I wanted to go with Mibr, and I just don't know why I didn't. But here, I thought Space Station would win, but it'd be close. And here, I mean, I kind of also thought Mibr was winning. I was just being a bit goofy. But I really did think Liquid would beat them. But Liquid just fell to pieces for whatever reason. Just a quick loss to TSM and then to Mibr. So do I predict against Mibr for a 5th time? I mean, do I get made a fool of Mibr for a 5th time in a row? I could just pick them and not allow that to happen, but then if they lose, then they sort of made me look foolish 5 times in a row. In terms of direct comparisons, what we have to go off of, they weren't in the same group or anything, so we can't look at a direct head-to-head in this tournament, but they did both play Oxygen. Faze Clan got a 7-3, 7-3, but Mibr got a 7-2, 7-2, so a more decisive win over Oxygen, and they both also played Liquid, so in bracket, and Faze Clan even playing Liquid in their group as well. And Faze, I don't know why I was hovering that one, this one, Liquid 2-0'd Faze both times in groups and here, and I think it was it a 7-5, 7-5 in group? And now it's a 7-2, 7-5, so Liquid beating them even more badly. But then Mibr gets a 2-0 over Liquid, and it's close on the second map, but not close on that first map. So if we're just doing a little bit of a power tier thing or whatever, if Mibr beats Liquid and Liquid beats Faze, then it should be Mibr also beating Faze. But it could also be some sort of rock, paper, scissors thing. You know, maybe Mibr beats Liquid, Liquid beats Faze, but Faze beats Mibr, and that's entirely possible. And it could just be, you know, and not even as simple as a rock, paper, scissors thing, but still a matter of matchups, the way that these teams line up with each other. I think Liquid has just generally been the bane of Faze. Maybe if Liquid had been present at Sweden, then Faze would not have ended up winning that tournament. Hard to say. Assuming the Liquid and Faze both went, that it wasn't Liquid that replaced Faze in the 4 LATAM teams that went. Okay, so enough dilly-dallying. I guess I'll go with Mibr this time. I was going to go with Faze, but by comparing the results and just my unwillingness to predict against Mibr once again, yeah, they look really good, and so does Faze. My heart wants to go with Faze, but this is another one of those things where I guess I'm going to, or my gut, I suppose my gut wanted to go with Faze, and I'm going to go against it just like I did way back here in TSM versus Nip, and I did not do in Mibr versus Nip, and I got it wrong, so I guess maybe this is a trend I should stick to. Yeah, I guess I'll predict Mibr, and that's what we're going with. And if Mibr can get a decisive victory over Faze, I'm not sure if TSM or Empire can stop them, and I guess they'll each have their shot. So if Mibr wins here, they'll fight TSM or Empire in this loser final, and then also assuming Mibr beats them, they'll fight the other one in the grands. So a lot of good matchups coming up. These are 4 deserving teams, and maybe a little bit surprising coming into the tournament. I mean, if you would have thought it would have been a European team coming really far, maybe you would have thought it'd been BDS. If for NA, TSM, maybe not the most unlikely, but given the struggles, and not even that bad of struggles, but the relative struggles they've had throughout the year, a little bit surprising. And then Mibr and Faze, Mibr also coming from the qualifier. Faze is probably the least shocking of the top 4 teams. And okay, I suppose that does it for this. Let's move on to the stats really quickly, and then we'll call it a day. Player stats, leaderboards. Once again, Grixer ends up on top in rating and KD. I think it's very, very unlikely anyone will be able to pass him. Palu, NJR, Nesk, Rexen, they're all out. Everyone on the top 5 for rating and KD are actually out of the tournament, and some of them are the same. Of course, Palu and Grixer are both on here, NJR as well. But then we see Nesk, Alamau, Bride, Rexen also out. And maybe it's a little bit interesting that we see Alamau and Bride still on here, despite the fact that they got eliminated in groups. But I do suppose that going out in groups helps you a little bit, because you would expect the competition to ramp up once you get into bracket. So if you can get really good stats in groups and then not have to play in bracket, yeah, you have a little bit of an advantage stat wise. But also, if we look at the full stats here, Merc and Nesk are also on 1.15. They just happen to be the 2 cut off on the leaderboard here. I guess maybe because it's alphabetical. I assume it is, given that it's Alamau and Bride, the A and the B names in this order. And then KD, yeah, just like nobody's going to pass Grixer, right? I mean, the next closest player that's still in the tournament is Astro at plus 39. So he would have to get to pass Grixer plus 52. And he has 3 series potentially to do it. He has the losers semifinal, the losers final, and then the grand final if he wins the 2 before that. But that's still an average of like plus 17 per series. It's just so overwhelmingly unlikely. It's potentially he could get above Palu, plus 16 over the course of 3 series. That's doable. But no, nobody's passing Grixer. He'll end this tournament on just absolute god tier monster stats. And Merc plus 25 is pretty monstrous as well. He has the potential to keep going up, whereas everyone else that's anywhere close to him does not. They're all out of the tournament. So unless Merc does really badly on entry and somebody else does really well on entry, then Merc will probably end up at top. Cost, Palu will probably end up on top for this. 76 is a pretty lofty number. Bride out of the tournament. Shepard the next closest, so Shepard always Lucan. Maybe one of them could pass him. But given how many games that they've already played, so how many rounds they've already played that have contributed to the cost, it seems pretty hard to get your average up above this. Even though it is only 2%, so it's possible. We'll have to see. Maybe Shepard will end up doing it. And then clutches, all of these guys are out. And then I think if we look at the full stats, that's actually everyone that has at least 5 clutches. So yeah, and it is. So the only people that are on 4 clutches, and so that are even close to getting onto that board, are Merc and Astro, and that's it, right? Yeah, they're the only 2 left in the tournament that have at least 4 clutches. So that would be insane for them if they could get up to Wiggy. I mean, just two more clutches is big, given how many people actually get per match, because how many they actually get the chance to get. So, but if they got 3 more over the course of the tournament, very impressive. And then Plants, Skies probably ends up on top because Super Eclipse, Ask, they're all also out. So Geo would have to get 10 more to get above him. And given that he's only gotten 20 thus far, 10 more seems kind of unlikely. And all right, we won't even run through the full stats. I just want to see where Nesk ended up. And I thought he actually ended up a little bit lower. It depends how you want to break this tie. I mean, I think this is just like random here, because when I looked at it before, I think before it like resorted, Nesk was on top at one point, and then yeah, now I guess maybe it's going by KD as a second metric since I just clicked on it. Whatever it is, I don't know which one of these guys is actually on top. I'm not sure if CGG actually just cuts off and records the number there, or if this number just continues on and we just can't see it, whatever it is. But so Nesk still ends up top 7 on rating at the end of today. He still has potential to be passed, but no potential to go up or down. So still a very impressive performance over the course of the tournament. Plus 42, plus 11, with just good numbers across the board. I think he has the highest survival rate still. Yeah, he does, but always very close behind it. Oh no, I guess Shepard has tied him, so maybe Shepard will end up on top for survival. But yeah, really impressive by Nesk, but well, if he had gone out with more of a fight, his stats would have ended up being more impressive as well. And yeah, I guess that's going to do it for today. I suppose at the end of the tournament, we'll maybe do a little bit more comprehensive of a look at the stats, but for now, we've sort of been keeping an eye on it, so that's probably sufficient. And okay, With all of that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video.
Faze, well, they fell in numbers.
Whoa. We almost. Oh!
Let's go! I smoked the fuck out of them!
Oh! No.
Let's go! I smoked the fuck out of them! Let's go! I smoked the fuck out of them!
He smoked someone, Parker.
He smoked something. I don't know what he's smoking.